Hey Mandy, alright, so here is your past life spread. So what we're going to do is we're going to look at where you were, what you did with the majority of your time there, an important day with the relationships and the feelings involved in the important day or time period, another important day, relationships, feelings, and then over here we have the death and the lesson learned, okay? So all I'm going to do is relay to you the images and impressions that are coming through, and your job is going to be to try to make connections where you can, based off of what comes through here and your current life. Now, I'll try to help however I can, okay? Just keep in mind that there are a couple of ways to make connections, direct and opposite. Direct connections are when you can directly resonate or connect with, which is important that you do connect and resonate however you can, with what directly comes through. And the opposite way you can connect is like when you can connect in a way that's like opposite. For example, if someone were to die in a past life of alcoholism, a lot of times we see those souls come back and reincarnate where they are allergic to alcohol or the ingredients in them, or they can't stand the taste of it, like that kind of thing. Now, as far as connecting and resonating, whatever you don't connect or resonate with here, just tuck it in the back of your mind for a later time, because a lot of times things come up in the days, weeks, months, year later kind of thing. You might something might happen where it might trigger something, and where you're like, oh, that's what she was talking about, like that kind of thing. So keep that in mind. And let's see, also you might want to get a notebook, pen kind of thing, because a lot comes through. And I think we talked about the lesson and then the time card. I don't know if I mentioned the time card is up here, and we'll get hints of time throughout. What I do want to mention before we get into the cards is the feel as I was pulling for the lesson down here. It took quite a while, and there was a feeling that this lesson is still being learned in your current life, and it might even be the main lesson of your current life. So we'll get to that later. So let's begin. Alright, so here where we're going, this is the island card. The island card doesn't necessarily mean what you think, like, oh, Hawaii and Fiji, and, it can mean Australia and Japan and UK and all these things. So what I want to say about this island card is it feels like there is something about being immersed in the water a lot. And I want to say what's coming to mind, there's a dual thing here. And just let's go into this with an open mind, because sometimes things come through that might not be something that you might necessarily believe at this time or not. You know what I mean? So let's just take it with a grain of salt. But what's coming through is what feels like the life immersed in the water. It feels like we're looking at a human life, but the feel of it is because it's like they chose this life to be in the water because of the last life that was not necessarily human, and quite frankly the feel of it is mermaid based. Now, mermaid based, this is all about, again, I'm not trying to change belief systems or whatever, but it's coming up for a reason. So I've had animal life as well, so this could very well be intelligence in the water is what it feels like, and that could be dolphin as well. To me, at least, that's how it connects, is like dolphin whale energy. But also I'm clearly getting a mermaid-based thing. So what's happening as I'm talking about the mermaid-based thing is we're getting this feminine energy running through this aspect that we're looking at. Feminine in the way of how you see femininity as powerful, not as passive. So divine femininity is actually what we're looking at. So I feel like we're hearkening back to the roots of your divine femininity, where it stems from a mermaid-based life. However, it's translating into showing us what this might actually be what we're looking at could possibly be your first human life. Simply because of the transition where this life is based, where it feels like it's mostly immersed in water. Okay, so how we might connect with this already. One, it could be simply that you are pulled to beach style living, beach aesthetic, beach atmosphere, energy. You could be pulled to the ocean. If I want to say, if you're feeling disconnected in your life in some way, disconnected in a way where you feel like there's like a staunch of flow, or like the creativity flow is not going, or you just feel like ungrounded, or you feel like you're not where you're supposed to be kind of thing, I feel like what the message would be, if you connect with that, would be to get to the water. Get to the water, preferably the ocean. Take a trip if you're not near it. Just get to the water. Now, this can also be where you might be someone that's pulled to the water, and you're like, that's where I want to go. That's where I like to vacate my vacations. That's where I'm pulled, like that kind of thing. If you're pulled to the water, it's for this reason. Water for you would be grounding, which I guess is kind of interesting. I don't think I've ever said it like that before for anyone, because usually when I'm talking about grounding, I'm talking about getting your feet in the earth kind of thing, or plant your feet in the sand or whatever. But here, it's like get your feet in the water, and it's going to be grounding, which is interesting, at least to me, because, you know, I think of water, I think floating, you know, but there's something about it that I feel will connect you in such a way that you will probably feel very aligned in ways you haven't in a while if you don't go to the water often. And or if you do go to the water often, you might notice like, oh yeah, that is my happy place. So the opposite connection to this would be if you were scared of the ocean, scared of the water, didn't like to get wet, didn't like, you know, that kind of thing. That would be complete opposite. So another way you can be connecting with this is the mermaid-based life coming through. If you do have any connection with mermaid, and it could be as simple as loving the aesthetic of a mermaid, seeing mermaids, feeling connected to them, loving to watch movies about them, like Splash might have been something, you know, that movie, or even like The Little Mermaid, or, well, there's something else coming through. Oh, pretending you were a mermaid, when you were young, or even now, like when you were young, swimming around like you were a mermaid, or even now, if you've ever heard of adult mermaids, if you find that kind of fascinating or intriguing, or you've seen it before and you're like, huh, that's really interesting, that kind of thing, that would be a connection right there. But then we also want to touch base on the idea of divine feminine energy, and I feel like there's something about that that is going to be very useful for you, as far as if you feel like you do not express yourself in ways that you wish you could, or in ways that you feel you should, or in ways you wish to, that kind of thing. It feels like there's something about touching on the mermaid energy that would make it so you can bring forward authentic expression, in case that is something you are working on, or if you're not aware of it, maybe check in and see if there is an area in your life where you are not expressing your internal, I want to say like culture. I don't know why I said, but when I say internal culture, it's coming through as like, it's like a petri dish, like the culture in a petri dish. So we're looking at like this, yes, so it's almost like they're showing me a culture in a petri dish and linking it to you expressing your internal culture, where it's almost like if you don't express yourself, mold is going to build up, or if you find you're not expressing yourself, mold builds up. And this is metaphorical, unless you're seeing mold in your house, or you just noticed mold somewhere, which would be interesting. But this has to do with like, let's say like in a relationship and you're not expressing what you need from your partner, and they keep doing something that is causing tension or annoyance or resentment, or that's what it is. Okay, it feels like almost like mold is resentment. And it feels like the way to keep mold off of a relationship, whether it's a romantic, a friendship, a colleague, or your relationship with even like a project or an environment, is to, I want to say, express your inner truth. And expressing your inner truth, when it's a person, yeah, you can like verbally say it, but when it's an environment, which is coming up, it would be admitting it to yourself. So I feel like there's something that maybe you have been dancing around that you haven't come out and just like bold-faced admitted to yourself, I do not like it here. I do not like this place. I do not like my current circumstance when it comes to ABC, whether it's career, relationship, your, romantic or otherwise. You know what I mean? Like certain things where making a choice to get out of it is the hard part, but once you're out of it, you know there's gonna be such relief on the other end of it, but it's the getting there that seems almost like, I want to say it would be tense or it'd be exhausting. But it's worth it, is what I want to say. So I feel like this is coming through, just in case you connect with any of that, this would be coming through, I would say, get to the water for clarity of mind, for groundedness, and almost like to be in contact with the divine feminine energy, because energy doesn't die, it transfers. So it transmutes. So what I want to say about that is almost like they're showing me an image of when like we'll say your mermaid self decided, I want to try the human thing. The part that she couldn't take with her, the mermaid aspect essentially, that she couldn't take with her, it's like she just let it melt into the water and it's still there. So it's you can use it anytime when you connect with the water. It's very powerful when it's like water, literally like feet in the ocean, but you can also do this if you weren't by water, you can pull up a YouTube video and you can connect with any imagery or video or image that you want simply through intention. And you can also, that's how you can connect with certain energy too. So you can actually connect with Mama Earth or the ocean or whatever you want, simply with a picture or a video and intention, and practice that kind of thing. But there is something here where it's like a message of like wanting to call in the divine feminine in the powerful way. And I said before, powerful versus passive, because a lot of times we have it in our head that femininity means like demure and passive, but it's like, no, like femininity, like divine feminine also incorporates masculine energy into it, because that's a balance. So when you're in tune with your divine femininity fully, it also means you're in tune with your masculinity, and there's a balance. So what's coming to mind is the idea of like those Amazonian warrior women. Like that is an aspect of femininity, and I feel like we're looking at that just to bring through a message of the idea of broadening your definitions or redefining your definitions of what femininity means to you, and almost like that will give you power, and also that will give you, like, I want to say, power is a good word for it, but it's like confidence. It'll give you confidence to express yourself and not feel like you're coming off as inauthentic. You can be authentically powerful and it's still feminine. So I don't know how you might connect with the ideas of themes in your life having to do with your femininity and how you come off to people. And even if you're concerned that you are coming off too masculine, too aggressive, too this or that, maybe you're a tomboy and that's something that you grew up where people didn't like it, but it's actually feminine. That's why you're not, like, it's tomboy is feminine, it's just a type of feminine, right? So I feel like the main thing about this is that you need to be aware that you can redefine definitions in your life, and in fact should, that you find no longer suit you because the definition has been given to you and you were taught it, rather than assessing it and writing it yourself. Okay? And I'm getting this a lot in readings where it's like, rewrite your rule book, rewrite your rule book. It's that kind of thing, because that will give you empowerment. When you're the one holding the pen, rewriting these things, you get to decide. And this is also writing your reality, rewriting your reality. This is, you know what I mean? So keep that in mind, keep making connections. There was another thing that came through here, which was dolphin energy. That could be a completely different aspect of you, as well as if you just connect with dolphins. There is a very special energy with dolphins. Not just that they're intelligent, funny, pretty, and cute, and smart, and wise. Like, not just the stuff that we know about them, but also there is a very old energy with dolphins. And there's something about it where even though dolphins are in the real world and mermaids are not, there is an energy between them that is kind of shared, we can say. So what we're looking at when they give me a mermaid and a dolphin, it feels like the reason they're bringing this through, even if you connect on the basic level of, oh, I love dolphins, like that kind of thing. The idea is the transition between mythical and reality, as how humans see it. Like, oh, mermaids are mythical fantasy creatures, dolphins are real, they're in the water, you can go see them, like that kind of thing. but they're both real in their own realms, and yet they share a certain interesting energy, we can say, that's very potent and powerful, and old as dust, you know? So I feel like there's something in that about the whole, like, seeing is believing, but really it's believing is seeing. So it's like, just because you see dolphins doesn't mean that mermaids are less real, in a nutshell. It's almost like I want to say dolphins are the mermaids of our reality, if that makes sense. It's just mermaids are in a different reality, and you can't see them with the eyes that you've been programmed to see your reality with. And this comes back to redefining the rules. It's almost like I want to say, if you redefine your life in such a way that maybe one day you'll see a mermaid. You know what I mean? Like, it's that kind of thing. So keep that in mind and do check-ins with yourself to see where you might be programmed in such a way that it is limiting your view of certain things, whether it's in your life or around you or of the world, okay? Perception is everything here. So keep making connections where you can here, and we're gonna. So what's coming through with this card, though, what you do with the majority of your time, what it feels like is a lot of it is hunting. Hunting for resources in the way of, like, it feels like fish, because it feels, oh, right, okay, so that's what I wanted to link in. So it feels like this aspect of you, first of all, this aspect, they're showing me a man, but in touch with the feminine energy so much that it also feels like, actually, I want to take that back. I want to say it's almost like he's unaware of masculine, feminine energy. It feels like this is ambiguous as far as energy. It feels not that it's not a gender. It feels like it's a he, but it feels like it doesn't matter. So I feel like that might be coming through for some reason, however you can connect of why gender or identity wouldn't matter. This could be in the case that you might be very all, like, for the cause, for people with identity issues or sexuality, you know, the what's it called, non-binary or transgender, or those causes, those things. If you have been triggered or you're emotionally pulled to them, or your heart is just a bleeding heart for those people, maybe you even feel protective over them, and it's okay if you don't connect with that, but if you do, it feels like there's something here that links to that, because the gender doesn't matter, because it feels like, as I'm talking, it feels like we're going more animalistic based. Not that this person is animalistic, but there is a primitiveness to it in the way of his instincts being what leads him through life. Now, the thing I wanted to link with this is, as I was talking about him being in the water most of the time, either this guy, this aspect, is with a small community, small group, who live in the water most of the time, and that's where they gather their resources, that's where they have fun, that's where they I want to say work and play, like live most of their life in the water, even though there's land right there. It's like they don't sleep in the water. It's not like, these are not people that, like, I don't think, like, have gills or anything, like, but they can hold their breath for quite a while, so it feels like there's something about them that anyone outside of them looking in would be like, oh, they're part fish. You don't see the fish, but their insides, their mentality, like, they're part dolphin, they're part, like, because they're intelligent, they're human, and yet they're just in the water like a pod of dolphins. I want to say there's even, like, imagery that it feels like they're even, like, communicating with the aquatic life, especially, I feel like especially dolphins. Oh, I'm trying to see where this place is. There's something that feels, hold on, it feels, I'm trying to be like, give me a map, show me where they're, it's the feeling, the energy of what we would, I want to say, what, at least what I am feeling is Caribbean. There's something about it that is like that, but it doesn't mean it is that. It just means it would be the energy of what people think of Caribbean islands, that feel like, when you think of the Caribbean islands, however that feels to you, like the feeling of the atmosphere, whatever it is, That's what this feels like. So if you've ever connected with the Caribbean islands by any chance, if that has been a place you've been just wanting to see or pulled at, or if you haven't, then go Google images of it and see how it makes you feel. It'd be really interesting if you can dig up history having to do with either a person being found where he lived mostly in the water because of some weird circumstance, or if you can find a people, like a group of people, a peoples, that dwells mainly in the water and like lives more in the water. But, you know, maybe they just come on land to like sleep and find different kinds of food or whatever. But it feels like this is a fish-based fish-based diet, as well as there's something about like the aquatic plant life that they eat, which might in my mind is like seaweed-ish. So how you might connect with this is a couple ways. One, if you really like fish for your diet, if you like, what's it called? A pescatarian? I hope that's not a religion. I hope that's the diet, a pescatarian, where it's like mostly fish or only fish as far as like any meat in the diet. Two, and I'm not a medical doctor in any form or way, but if you have any like tummy issues or something that's bothering you, look at, see if that's something that you can research and see if that's something that would help with anything you might have, whether it's like bloating or like tummy issue, I don't know, like, with diet, because diet can affect you so much. If you haven't thought about a fish-based diet or a seafood-ish based kind of diet, that might be useful to you. So, consult a doctor and all that stuff. Disclaimer. But that's what's coming through as well. On the other hand, it could be if you hate fish and you're just like, ugh, gross seafood. That would be the opposite connection. But look all that stuff up. And keep making connections where you can, but we were talking about this, linking to that. And yeah, I think that's pretty much it, at least for now, what's coming through with these guys. So just keep making connections where you can with this, and we're going to go to the first important day. So here, this is the marriage card. The marriage card can mean that you're in union with someone, or you're watching it, or we even got people who are like performing the ceremonies or whatever it might be. However, this feels like we're looking at a very playful vibe of union, and it also looks like, and this is just what's coming through, so I'm not promoting anything or whatever that, might bother you, it's like, so just take it as you will, a grain of salt, but this actually feels like a multi-union love story, almost like I want to say, because the community also is so small, there's something about people just coming together playfully and lovingly, and there's something about these people that, again, because of the animal instincts that they are more in tune with, there's no jealousy and there's no like envy or possessiveness when it comes to lovers. And so it feels like, this feels like, I guess the word would be more like how humans would think of it, is like polyamorous. So however you might connect with that, I don't know. It could be like direct connection would be that if you can see the balance and see the pros of polyamorous unions or relationships, and or you might be in one, you might be considering it, you might be opening up to different sensual phases in your life, and this might be, if that's the case, this would be a message for you to continue down the path of at least being open and allowing yourself to feel what you feel without judgment, and allow yourself to research and see what you think, and have no judgment. And also, this could be connecting if you are someone that's dealing with a relationship where there are jealousies or possessiveness involved, whether it's from you on your end or from a partner on their end. And in that case, this would be coming through as a message to show you just that there are other ways that people work. And if this is you, don't judge yourself for feeling how you feel or thinking how you think when it comes to relationships. If it's someone else, then remember, everybody has their own journey and different things work for different people. And judgment just, it just brings resentment and lack of understanding, lack of clarity when you're full of judgment. Not you, just anyone. So just to keep that in mind in case you're dealing with that in relationships. This could be also the opposite, where you might find that you were born into a very traditional, even slash religious based kind of background type of family, where you were taught very, like, what's the word? Prudent is coming through. Prudent, is that the word? Where it's traditional ways of marriage, where it's like even like staying a virgin till marriage, or being a good girl, good wife, or like even growing up just feeling like, oh, well, I guess one day I'm just gonna be married with kids and do the dutiful wife thing and dutiful mother thing, like that kind of thing, where you felt like you even had no choice. This could be coming up as far as the theme of marriage in your life, or union with people, like how you feel about marriage. Are you someone that's like, marriage is just a paper contract? Or are you someone like, marriage is a deeply devoted union between souls? And you know what I mean? So it's like, this is coming up for some reason, and it could simply be just to touch base with how you feel in, like, in your, again, your interior culture, how you feel about marriage and union when it comes to relationships, romantic relationships, specifically with this card. Okay? So just keep that in mind as we go to the relationship card here, which is funny because this is a relationship card, but this is the family card. And what's coming through is the idea that even though the, I want to say the what's the word? Like when you, like the pleasure aspect of coming in union with people, it feels like the community is also, it's about pleasure, but it's also like they see the like having children as a beautiful, rewarding kind of experience that comes from the pleasure, because it feels like the community again is so small that they really treasure every single person. So I feel like this is actually coming through because you might be able to connect in the opposite way, where you might be someone today that thinks like the world is overpopulated and people should adopt because there's kids without parents, like, you know what I mean, like that mindset that would be opposite from here. But on this, in the same vein, the direct connection would be if you are someone that is pulled to create your own family unit. If that's been not just that, but to see it as a pleasure act instead of a duty. So let's say you do connect with the thing about being born like in a traditional family where it's your duty to blah, blah, blah. This, if anything, would become, if you connect with that, this would come through to remind you that it's how you look at it, and you can look at it as a pleasurable thing if you want to. Let's say you already have a family and you might even resent it a little bit, like almost like, oh, I had kids too young, or I got married too young, or whatever it might be. If that's the case, this would be coming through to show you, hey, let's change your mindset, because like it's like once you have kids, like if you have kids, those are your kids. So instead of going through life where you might be a bit resentful of the choices made about that, which I'm not saying you are, but in case you are, this is talking about a perception shift. So this can also help you. Let's just say like you have a family and you love your family and it's amazing. There's still going to be moments where you want to strangle someone, you know, like just as a human being eventually. So this would just be like, hey, step outside of the perception that where there might be frustration or anger, and try to see the pleasure in it, which it's almost like I want to say there's a there's a humorous tint to the whole community. There's something very like amusing. They find a lot of amusement in things, and it's almost like they don't take things too seriously. So that can also mean that you might have come into this life where you find you do take things too seriously. If you find that you take things too seriously, this would be a reminder for you to try to find the humor wherever you can, however you can, this would actually take you kind of lighting up certain places in your brain that you're not used to when it comes to perceiving things in a humorous way that otherwise you might take too seriously or overthink or overanalyze. So however you might connect with that, if you are the overthinker kind of thing, try to infuse an amusing aspect into your daily life just in general. Almost like if you were to walk around and see life like you're walking through a theme park. You know, like you chose to come to this theme park called Earth, and it's just full of a bunch of silly things. You know what I mean? Like, I feel like that's what would come through for that if you do take things too seriously. Now, here's the thing, even if you don't take things too seriously, this might be the kind of thing where you want to tuck in the back of your mind for a later time if something should come up in your life that makes life get serious real quick kind of thing. Always remember to keep that, I want to say, amusement park aspect in the back of your mind so you could pull it up like a tool. You can use it as a tool out of your pocket when you need to lighten up a little bit. Because when you lighten up, it's not that you don't take something seriously. It's that if you are able to lighten up and then come at the issue, you'll be able to resolve it so much easier and like just more fluidly, and you'll feel more aligned rather than approaching something very serious with kind of like a dread aspect versus seeing the silver lining of amusement that is in everything, even death. So just consider that, keep that in mind. And the feeling here that we got is torn. So the torn card, I feel, is very connected to, not to them, because they know what this is about. They're playful, they're pleasurable, they're playful, and they don't take things too seriously, even though like having a family, it is serious, but they keep the fun alive in it. And a lot of it has to do with the imagination and using what they got, which what they have is an ocean, a whole ocean. There's a lot to like utilize in an ocean, where it's like in your life, you have the planet, you're on planet Earth. Like, look at your surroundings, look at your environment. What can you use it as tools to have fun with that you might not see as fun until you think about it and actually kind of kickstart it into fun mode, if that makes sense. It could be very useful. So the torn part, this card is not that it applies to this, it's that it's lacking. These people are not torn in how they approach life, in how they approach circumstances of life or themes in life, such as pleasure and family, and those kinds of things. So you don't have to be torn as well if you just decide to tint things with amusement, but also see it for what it is, not overthink it. It's kind of like a little bit of a formula. So hopefully that's helpful in some way and you can connect in some way with that, but keep making connections with this. And this also speaks of seeing your community as family, which is just a message of you create your family. You can decide who your family is to you, okay? Keep making connections. We're going to the next important day. So here, this is the graduation card. Graduation, yeah, it can mean academic, but it can also, more often than not in these readings, it means graduation in the mentality, emotionality, spirituality, physicality. There's so many ways that you can be graduating, or another way to put it is leveling up. And the relationship involved with that is the child card. And here, this is a neutral card. Again, I'm telling you, this feeling card is not directly related here. It's what's lacking. So neutrality, in other words, it's like not deciding, or not having a thought, or not having a care, or not feeling. And this, I feel like this has to do with not feeling, as far as like not feeling certain emotions or whatever. It feels like these people were very aware of every emotion going on in their body, and I want to say they attended it, and that's how they put it. That's what's coming through, is like they attended to the emotions in their body. And again, with a tint of amusement, like even feeling bored or tired, whatever they might feel, they coded it with a kind of amusement, like, that's interesting, like a curiosity almost. So they were never removed from what they were feeling. And I feel like this day, what we're seeing, we are seeing a period of time, not just a day, of you partaking in raising a child. Now, here's the gig. It feels like the children, that saying, it takes a village to raise a child. It feels like when people had children, it's almost like the child doesn't even know who their real parent is. I mean, they might, like literally, but like overall, it's like they don't really know because they don't care, because everyone that's an adult is a parent to the child. And it feels like here, it's like almost like the children, I want to say, get passed around from person to person to be with them by their side, to learn the ways and grow with an individual or a couple or whatever, however they travel, however you guys travel. But it feels like every child, it's like they just get passed around and they grow up in certain parts of their life with different individuals, where they look to the individuals or the adults as their mom or their dad, even though I don't even think they use the words, but that's their guardian for a time. And then they go to another guardian, and it's not like they don't see each other. Everybody sees each other every day, but it's who they stay by the side of will be their guardian for a time. This would be so interesting if you can find like some kind of tribe or community, historically or otherwise, like in the world that does this kind of thing. This is very cool. We're looking at a different way to raise children. So if that is something in your life, a theme, or like it's something that is a pet peeve of yours, might be the schooling system, how children are raised. Maybe you're just someone that's like, I cannot believe that they don't teach our kids this. I can't believe that they're raising their kid like that. You also might be triggered by the whole like single parent thing, where you feel like it does not benefit the child to have more than one adult guardian in their life, that they should have more than one. However that might play, or however you might connect with that, that's what's coming through too. But this is we're seeing a period of time where you are a guardian over a child here, and there is a really great bond here, and it's not neutral. That's the thing. I almost want to say that this child is coming up because this would be a child that I want to say you would have wanted to keep as your own and not pass around if you didn't work in the ways of the community already. So it's like the thought didn't even really cross your mind, like, oh, I wish this kid could be mine forever and just mine. It's not like that, but there was I want to say this child was the strongest bond you had than with any other child that you were the guardian of during the time. And I feel like this child is a soul that you would see in your current life today. And this child, the energy to recognize that person today, the energy of this kid that you were guardian of, it doesn't mean they're going to be a child in this life, but they could have come back to be your child so that you could have one-on-one, or you were the child just so you can have a one-on-one parent-child relationship. That is definitely one option. This soul's energy feels like it's buddy-buddy. It's a buddy-buddy, but very, very connected. And there is like a learning back and forth and joking. Finishing each other's jokes kind of thing, and a buddy-buddy relationship. So if anyone's coming to mind as I say that, that's the person. Even if it's not family, even if it's just someone you met. If no one's coming to mind, this is the kind of thing you want to tuck in the back of your mind for a later time, because you might bump into someone and it'll be like ding, ding, ding. So just keep that in mind. But this is a really cool kind of thing. So this can also speak to your role as a guardian and a mentor in this life. You might do very well in that arena if it's a direct connection. So if you're looking for like something you might want to do in life, whether it's volunteering, spending more time with something new like a hobby, or a career, a transition kind of thing, this could be as heavy as social work, but it can also be as light as doing as babysitting. But also it's the idea of mentoring, guiding, kind of like coaching the youth. And I'm getting this in a couple of readings lately, which is really interesting. But this would speak that you would be very good at teaching someone the ropes, but doing it in such a way that they don't feel like they're learning in a classroom. They just feel like they're learning from life experience. You might not even realize that you might be teaching people already, just because of how you live your life and your life experience, and it rubbing off on other people, like your energy rubbing off on other people and your ways, and you might not see it. And this could be if you are a mother and you have your kids and you're not even fully aware of how much you affect them, or how much they are taking from you, like how much they are replicating your energy and your ways, if that makes sense. But this does speak of someone, this could also be if you're interested in doing like, what's it called, where it's like, oh, what's it called, the Boys and Girls Club kind of thing, or guardian ad litem, or a godparent, like those kinds of roles, foster parent, like those kinds of roles. But this can also speak to someone who would be a good teacher, but in an alternative setting, not like a classroom. Even if you are a teacher in a classroom, this would speak to someone that would thrive, like you might thrive more in an alternative teaching what sort of atmosphere or environment. Okay? And this might also speak to you being someone that forms it, or that starts to like put together a new kind of program, or a new if you're more entrepreneurial in that sense. Let's see. And honestly, I do want to say what's coming through is the idea of a water birth. I don't know if that's anything you can connect with, because that randomly just came through as a water birth. So I don't know if that has to do with you having a water birth, wanting a water birth, if you do want children, having considered it, or what's it called, telling someone about that as an option. Could be that you just witnessed aquatic life, aquatic births of aquatic animals being born in the water kind of thing. Might have just like seen a movie or a documentary or something like that. But that is coming through for some reason. So keep making connections where you can. Oh, one more thing about this. The bond that these two shared, that you and this kid shared, it came because you did not have a neutral approach. I want to say that that is going to translate in your life, does not necessarily with relationships, but with projects that you do as well. Creative endeavors. If you want to see success, you cannot approach something neutrally. And what's coming through is the idea of when it's like you're nervous of failing at something, so you don't want to get your hopes up. That's slightly different, but make sure you don't drop into a neutral, I don't care if this works out or not, just because you don't want to get your hopes up. Because you don't want to put that energy into a project or out there when you're working towards something that you actually do hope is successful. So just make sure that you maintain, you don't want to be neutral about something that you're passionate about. If you're passionate about it, don't make yourself smaller, don't make the project smaller, don't just like, oh, it's nothing. Don't do that. Approach the project, or and it could be a relationship as well, but approach these circumstances with as much lack of neutrality as there is passion. Be as excited as you approach it as you are passionate about the project or relationship as well. All right? That's what I feel like wants to come through from that. So just keep making connections with this however you can. And we're going to go to the death card. So this is the natural death. And what's coming through is the idea that because of how they lived their life so actively, and the diet that they had, and the emotional range and amusement and laughter and humor they had with the way they approached life, not only did these people not suffer illnesses from like stress, you know, how that affects the physicality or whatever, but that they actually lived longer than most people on the planet, which might actually help in your Google search if they have documented these people or whatever, if they live longer than other people. This would, more than anything, connect with a reminder or a message that be more active if you are not as active as you want to be. Like if you know you're putting something off, whether it's some kind of movement, mobility, exercise, class, whatever it is, dance, whatever it is, swimming, swimming. It'd be interesting actually if you were afraid to swim, or you never learned to swim in this life. That'd be really interesting. But you might also be an excellent swimmer, by the way, in case you were ever drawn to doing like diving, swimming, scuba, snorkel, anything like that. But this would be a message more than anything, that to try your best to stay active, to watch your diet, you know, be healthy. It's just coming through like live a healthy life, and don't forget that means emotional health, big time. Okay? So keep making connections where you can with this natural death card. And we're going to go to the lesson. Though first, actually, I want to touch on the time card. It feels like these people live timelessly. It feels like they only go by the seasons. It feels like where they are is pretty temperate, so it might get a little colder, a little warmer. This can speak to how you feel about a climate. Like you might like to like the idea of living somewhere where it's not extreme temperature. However, an opposite connection would be if your soul wants to experience extreme temperature, so it chose somewhere that where it snows or where it gets super humid or beaming hot or super rainy, you know what I mean? Like just extremes. That would be the opposite connection. What else? There's timelessness. This is not the first time that's coming through. When they show a timeless society, it's about you in your current life. If you find that you are deadline driven and that is causing stress, that it's time to reconsider a different way of living a bit where it's not so deadline stressed. Deadline stress, that's what's coming through. Deadline stress. Do what you have to do what it takes, do what you have to do. Usually when we get this means that the person that we're talking, you in your current life, you might be getting ideas of a change in career, a business to start, something that might be able to make money, basically, like something else you can be doing that is not so deadline driven, or if there are deadlines, it's because you set them. So just keep that in mind, and that would be, if that's the case, that would be a message for you to start taking baby steps, at least take the next step towards that kind of lifestyle and that kind of creating that kind of reality. So keep that in mind, keep making connections. And the lesson card. This is what I think I mentioned before, that this lesson is something that is, what's it called? Has come through. Like, this is self-love because that's all there is here. And they show self-love by everything. Basically, their lifestyle shows how they nurture themselves. And in nurturing themselves, they nurture others because they stay fueled up. So if you keep your love bucket full for yourself and you prioritize yourself and the love bucket's full for you, you're just going to spill over onto other people. The love bucket spills over rather than running on fumes and just drip drying, so to speak, like just drips of it. And then that's where resentment forms, right? That's what we were talking about. So this life, I feel like is coming up to show you how you can be making perhaps a few tweaks, changes, shifts in your own life in order to maintain and keep going with this self-love lesson. Because this is a lesson that you're always gonna, every lifetime, self-love is important, but especially now when it's like the individual journey is very important right now. Even though we're all one and we're all connected, the individual journey is very important because we're also learning how to redefine certain things. So for example, what's coming to mind is the idea of redefining the word selfish. Selfish is not negative. Selfish is prioritizing yourself. There's nothing wrong with that, but we've been taught there's something wrong with prioritizing yourself, you know? And we've been taught it's selfish, but it's not. Because again, when you fill your own love bucket to the brim, you will not have any resentment when it spills over onto other people that you love, that you want to help. Versus being a people pleaser where you're running on fumes, you haven't filled your love bucket, and you're giving everyone everything you got, and there's nothing there for you. You want to make sure that you are taking care of yourself and prioritizing yourself above others because that's the best way to love others too. Okay? So just something to consider, but keep making connections where you can when it comes to the self-love lesson. And anyway, there is your past life. I hope you enjoyed it. I hope you're able to make some connections here. And thanks for letting me read you.